Your feet will carry you roughly 100,000 miles over the course of your lifetime. That is 4 times around the circumference of the Earth. And right now, there is a very good chance you are making that journey in shoes that are slowly, quietly, and expensively destroying the very thing they claim to protect. Nobody tells you this when you are standing in the shoe shop, holding a box, staring at a price tag. The footwear industry in the UK is worth over £10 billion a year, and a significant slice of that money goes to marketing claims with no clinical backing, comfort technologies that collapse within weeks, and brand names that have spent decades building trust they stopped earning long ago. A shoe has 2 jobs: to protect your feet and to support how your body moves. Every single time it fails at either of those, the cost does not stay in your feet. It travels up into your ankles, your knees, your hips, your lower back. Podiatrists across the UK are treating conditions that trace directly back to the shoes people wear every day, bought from brands they trusted at prices that should have meant something. Here are 8 brands currently on UK shelves that are taking your money and taking from your health, and 3 that are actually worth it. This starts now. The 8 to skip. We begin with the brand that turned comfort into its entire personality and made that comfort the very thing that hurts you. 8. Skechers. This is the brand that sold softness as support. Ask someone why they bought Skechers and they will say the same word almost every time: comfortable. That comfort is not an accident. It is an engineered sensation, delivered by the memory foam insoles that Skechers have built their entire identity around. And it is precisely what UK podiatrists have been warning their patients about for years. Complete Feet, an accredited podiatry clinic based in Hampshire, coined a phrase for what happens to that foam over time: insole Alzheimer's. Memory foam is designed to compress under weight and spring back. With extended daily wear, it loses that ability to rebound. It stops holding its neutral, corrective shape and instead takes on the memory of your gait, including any problematic patterns within it. If you overpronate, the foam molds to that overpronation. If you have poor arch engagement, the foam accommodates it. It does not correct the problem, it embeds it. The clinic reports treating patients with ligament and muscle strains, destabilized ankles, and lower back pain traceable directly to Skechers wear. The softness that feels like relief in week 1 is the very thing removing the structural support your shoe needs to actually protect you. Skechers are not appropriate for heavy wear, prolonged standing, or anyone with biomechanical foot issues. The marketing never mentions that. The price tag never mentions it either. You find out from the podiatrist. Something to understand before we continue. The shoes on this list are not failing you because they are cheap. Some are very expensive. They are failing you because what they are selling, whether it is comfort, heritage, or fashion credibility, is not the same thing as structural support. The next brand is the most literal example of that gap. If Skechers is the brand that tricked you with foam, UGG is the one that got you with a feeling. 7. UGG. This is the brand that turned warmth into a foot problem. The UGG classic boot has at this point been worn by 2 generations of British women. It was warm. It felt soft. It felt like wearing a cloud around your foot rather than a shoe. That feeling was the whole point. And it is exactly why multiple podiatrists at Davenport House Clinic and foot and ankle specialists cited in HuffPost UK have placed it on their list of footwear to avoid as a daily shoe. The flat, entirely unsupported sole means no heel differential, no arch contour, nothing countering the inward roll of the foot that podiatrists call overpronation. Long-term wear puts consistent strain on the plantar fascia, the band of tissue connecting your heel to your toes, and on the Achilles tendon. That strain is cumulative. It does not announce itself on day 1. It arrives as heel pain in the morning, arch ache after a long day, and eventually a clinical appointment you did not plan for. The fungal risk is separately documented and rarely mentioned. Because Uggs are worn without socks against sheepskin lining, your foot perspires directly into the material, creating exactly the warm, moist environment that allows dormant fungal infections to activate and spread. The same lining that keeps you warm creates the conditions for athletes' foot and toenail fungus to take hold. The boots can harbor an infection after it clears from your skin, meaning every time you put them back on, you are reintroducing it. UGG has released newer platform styles. The classic boot, still their most sold product in UK stores, remains structurally unchanged. This next one is not a bad shoe. It is a shoe that has been in the wrong decade for about 100 years. 6. Converse Chuck Taylor. This is the shoe that's been stuck in 1917. Chuck Taylor designed the original all-star for competitive basketball in 1917. The shoe has not meaningfully changed since. Basketball footwear technology has advanced approximately a century. The Chuck Taylor has not come with it. Dr. Leslie Campbell, a podiatrist and American Podiatric Medical Association spokesperson, described it as a glorified sock without adequate support or stability and minimal to no shock absorption. Dr. Tom Bianacki, DPM, writing in 2026, was more specific about the clinical consequences. Achilles tendinopathy, plantar fasciitis, and shin splints in young patients who wore Converse daily for years. The mechanism is structural. A zero-drop flat sole places your Achilles tendon in a fully lengthened working position without the slight elevation that lets it function efficiently. Do that every day for long enough and the tendon protests. For people with flat feet or overpronation, there is another problem. No medial posting, no heel counter worth mentioning, and no twisting stability. Your foot has nothing to push against, nothing preventing the inward collapse that leads to shin splints, knee tracking problems, and eventually hip asymmetry. They are sold in every JD Sports and shoe in the UK as casual everyday trainers. A significant proportion of the people wearing them are wearing them all day. That gap between what they were designed for and what you are using them as is a gap that costs you in discomfort, clinical appointments, and often custom orthotics. 3 in. All of them. Selling you a story. Comfort, warmth, cool, instead of a structurally sound shoe. The next brand is not even pretending to be something it is not. That is somehow the more honest version of this problem. 5. Vans Classic Slip-On. Here is where things get strange, because this shoe is actually doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is just not designed for your life. This is a specialist shoe pretending to be an everyday one. The Vans Classic Slip-On is a skateboarding shoe. That is not a criticism. For skateboarding, it works. The flat vulcanized sole gives good grip, and the low profile lets skaters feel the board beneath them. That sensitivity is a feature for the use case it was built for. Daily walking is not that use case. The Run Repeat lab assessment measured the heel counter at 1 out of 5 for rigidity. That is an extremely pliable structure at the back of your shoe, which means almost nothing is holding your heel in alignment during each step. Without a firm heel counter, your heel bone can shift laterally with every impact. Over time, that movement puts strain on the peroneal tendons on the outside of your ankle and contributes to the pronation problems that eventually show up as arch pain and heel soreness. The slip-on format makes it worse. Without laces securing your midfoot, you naturally grip the inside of the shoe to stop it slipping. That toe gripping is invisible to you but constant, and consistently overworked toe flexor tendons are a direct route to pain across the front of the foot, an early hammer toe formation. You feel that flexibility as casual, breezy lightness. Your tendons feel it as an unchecked load. Most of what you have heard so far has been clinical. What comes next starts practical and ends in the same place. 4. Primark. This is the disposable shoe problem, soles and glue included. The conversation around Primark shoes usually begins with what happens in the first few weeks. The soles fall apart. The glue fails. Sizes bear no consistent relationship to the UK standard. And then it becomes a clinical conversation when those same shoes are the ones being worn for school runs, shifts on your feet, and daily commutes. UK podiatrist LR Podiatry filmed themselves rating Primark shoes in-store on TikTok in 2025. The findings were consistent across the range, and the two that stood out most were the same two viewers always notice first. Soles separating from the upper, glue bonds giving way within the first few wears. Beyond that, inadequate heel counters, highly flexible thin soles with no twisting stability, and narrow toe boxes that compress your forefoot in styles marketed as casual everyday shoes. The The combination of poor biomechanical design and low-grade construction means the shoe fails at two levels simultaneously. It cannot support your foot structurally, and it does not even last long enough to fall apart on its own terms. When you spend £7 or £8 on shoes, you are not being clever with your money if those shoes are coming apart at the seams within weeks. You are spending £7 now and significantly more later. That is not budget shopping, that is deferred cost. 4 brands. And none of this has been about price. Cheap shoes can damage your feet. So can expensive ones. The next one charges premium prices for something that has been documented to fail within weeks of purchase. 3. Office shoes. You might recognize this one. You might have walked into one of their shops expecting quality and walked out holding something that did not survive the month. This is premium pricing without premium quality. Office is a premium-positioned UK footwear retailer with a Trustpilot score that currently sits below 3, not below 3 stars for delivery complaints or sizing exchanges. Below 3 stars overall, and the pattern in the reviews is structural failure. One reviewer described sole cracking within a few weeks of purchase, letting water in when it rained. The shoes were returned for assessment. Weeks passed. Emails went unanswered. Another reported a kitten heel purchased at £44.99, where the heel tip rotated completely out of place after a single wear. A clear manufacturing fault. The response was to direct the customer through a returns process that multiple reviewers describe as glacially slow and occasionally unresolved. The pattern matters because Office is not selling cheap shoes. The price points suggest a product that should last. The consistent documentation across multiple independent platforms suggests otherwise. What Office is actually selling at a significant number of price points is the aesthetic of a quality shoe shop, alongside shoes that fail at the structural level within the kind of time frame that tells you the materials were never adequate for the price being charged. What comes next is not really a footwear problem. It is a quality control problem that happens to be shaped like a shoe. 2. Shan. This is what happens when quality control disappears. A customer in Beaconsfield, Buckinghamshire, reported receiving their Shane shoe order and finding both shoes were for the left foot. Not a sizing issue, not a fit complaint. 2 left feet, in a box, dispatched as a complete pair. That review from Pissed Consumer is not an isolated aberration. Shein's UK footwear operation runs on a model that prioritises the photograph over the product. The shoe in the image and the shoe in your box share a design. They do not always share a construction standard, a size correspondence, or basic bilateral symmetry. Independent reviewers who tested Shein footwear noted visible creasing and sole stress after 2 wears. The materials used have no UK trading standards publication confirming they meet the standards expected of footwear sold to British consumers. The returns process compounds it. Shein's mechanism for disputed orders has involved coupon offers rather than cash refunds in documented cases, meaning your financial recovery for a defective product is limited to future spending with the company that sent you the defective product. That is not consumer protection, that is consumer capture. The brands you have seen so far share one thing. They rely on trust you built before you started asking questions. Habit, fashion, price. None of those things are the same as biomechanical integrity. The final brand on this list is the one with the most famous reputation for being fine when it is not. 1. Crocs. And here we are, the one you were probably expecting, the one you might be wearing right now. This is comfort at the expense of support. Crocs are worn by tens of millions of people across the UK. They are prescribed in some NHS settings for patients who cannot tolerate conventional footwear. They have a loyal, vocal following. The shoe everyone knows isn't ideal but keeps wearing because it feels good. And the podiatric consensus on them across multiple clinical voices on both sides of the Atlantic is consistent. They are not a shoe for all-day wear, and the consequences of treating them as one are well documented and predictable. Board-certified podiatrist Dr. Anne Sharkey puts it plainly. The most common presentations she sees from Crocs wearers are arch and heel pain, from the lack of structural support, and pain across the front of the foot once the cushioning degrades. The heel strap that Crocs market as the feature that makes the shoe wearable does not provide heel support equivalent to a structured shoe. Multiple podiatrists note that most wearers leave the strap in the loose forward position anyway, which removes even the limited security it offers and forces your toes to grip the interior to stop the shoe from slipping. That gripping is what creates the hammer toe and forefoot stress they keep treating. The escalator risk is separately documented and rarely understood. The flexible rubber that makes Crocs comfortable is the same material that can deform and catch in escalator mechanisms. Several children's hospitals in the UK have treated injuries resulting from Crocs on escalators. It is a specific, documented safety concern for one of the UK's most sold casual shoes, available in every department store in the country. Crocs have a place. Recovery from foot surgery, brief poolside wear, the post-match locker room, all day, every day, no. And the number one brand is probably sitting in your hallway right now. 8 brands, all of them on UK shelves right now, all of them falling short in ways that affect your feet, your posture, and your long-term mobility. What follows is different. 3 brands that made the calculation the other way. The 3 worth buying. After everything you have just heard, this is where it starts to turn around. 3. New Balance. New Balance does not make one kind of shoe. They make a range, and within that range, several lines carry the American Podiatric Medical Association's seal of acceptance, including the Fresh Foam X 1080, consistently cited by podiatrists in the UK and US as a clinically sound everyday shoe. The APMA seal is not a marketing claim. It is granted through an independent review process in which practicing podiatrists evaluate each product for arch support, structural stability, and overall foot health benefit. Most brands do not have it. Several New Balance lines do. The width range is the practical differentiator. New Balance offers standard, wide, 2E, and extra wide, 4E fittings across their core walking and running ranges. That matters because a significant proportion of UK adults are wearing shoes that are too narrow for their actual foot width, and that compression contributes to bunion formation and the neuromas that bring people into podiatrists with burning forefoot pain. Having access to a fitted width, actual E fitting, not just a vague wide claim, is a structural benefit most brands at any price point do not provide. Dr. Isaac Tabari, a board-certified foot and ankle specialist, specifically names New Balance when discussing the best wide-width sneakers for people with foot health concerns. That is not a brand arrangement. It is an independent clinical recommendation. For walking, daily wear, and long periods on your feet, it is a well-earned one. This next brand did not start with a marketing team. It started with a podiatrist. 2. Vionic was founded by a podiatrist, and that founding logic runs through every product in their range. The VioMotion technology built into the footbed of each shoe is a biomechanical orthotic, not an aftermarket insert, not an optional upgrade, but a structural component of the shoe designed to align your foot and distribute load across its full surface, rather than concentrating it at the heel and ball. Multiple Vionic products carry the APMA seal of acceptance, the same independent podiatric body that evaluated New Balance. The seal specifically recognizes that the footbed design has been reviewed by practicing podiatrists and found to provide genuine clinical benefit. A peer-reviewed clinical study funded by Vionic found their footbeds effective at reducing moderate non-traumatic heel pain. That is the kind of transparency that no brand on the first half of this list has produced. The price point sits above mass-market brands. Unlike most of what you have seen on this list, the gap between what Vionic charges and what the product delivers is not a marketing calculation. It is an engineering one. This last one reframes the whole conversation, because it is not about finding a better version of what everyone else is selling. It is about questioning whether the premise was ever right. 1. Hobie Bear. Every brand above this line, the good and the bad, operates on the same underlying assumption, that a shoe should cushion and elevate your foot away from its natural ground contact. Hobie Bear starts from a different place entirely. The barefoot shoe model is not a trend. It is a return to the biomechanics your foot was actually designed for. The Hobie Bear construction is built around 3 principles that conventional footwear quietly abandons. Zero drop. No elevation of the heel relative to the forefoot, which means your Achilles tendon and calf muscles work in their natural range rather than the shortened position that elevated heels create over decades of wear. Wide toe box. The interior dimensions follow the actual anatomical width of the human forefoot, allowing your toes to splay under load the way they are designed to, rather than being compressed into the narrowing shapes most shoes force them into. Thin, flexible sole. Enough to protect against road surfaces, thin enough to allow your foot to feel the ground and respond to it the way the sensory receptors in your sole are designed to do. Independent 8-month testing in demanding restaurant work confirmed that Hobebear delivers genuine barefoot function at a price accessible enough to make the comparison with conventional brands meaningful. Under £30 on Amazon UK. That is less than a pair of Skechers, less than a pair of Crocs. And unlike either, it is not undermining the structural capability of your foot with every single step. Hobebear is the most accessible entry point in the UK market. Your feet were designed to be competent. Most of the footwear industry has spent decades profiting from making you feel like they need rescuing instead. 8 brands, all of them sitting on shelves you walk past every week, all of them quietly costing you in ways you will not notice until your knees ache after a normal day, or your back tightens on a walk that used to feel easy. That is the part nobody warns you about. The damage does not arrive with a receipt, it arrives months later, disguised as something else. But 3 brands proved it does not have to be this way. 3 brands that looked at the same problem and chose to actually solve it instead of just dressing it up. So look down. Look at what is sitting in your hallway right now. If even one pair of shoes in your cupboard made this list, hit subscribe. Because next, we are doing the same thing to the running shoe aisle. And what we found there is going to make this list look gentle.